Hello everyone, my name is Sunita and today we'll understand lesson number 12, Introduction to Strategic Management. But before starting this topic, we first need to understand as to what is strategy. See, strategy is nothing but a game plan, a long-term plan, that is made with an intention to, so there are basically two objectives of preparing any strategy. First objective of preparing the strategy is to adapt the changing environment. So we know that the environment in which the business operates today is dynamic. There are lots of factors operating in the environment of business, and these factors do not remain constant. So these factors includes your customers, your suppliers, the competitors, technological changes, political changes, legal changes, and many more. And if the company do not timely adapt to this environmental changes, the company fails. Remember the case of Nokia. Nokia was the market leader in the telecommunications sector at one time. But what happened? When technological changes occurred in the environment, there was new technology. The Android phones came into the market. There was touch screen technology. But what Nokia did, it did not adapt. It remained with the same Symbian technology, selling the old keypad phones, but customer didn't like that and Nokia failed, drastically failed. So you prepare a plan, you prepare a game plan to adapt to these changes in a timely manner. And that game plan is your strategy. And second objective of preparing your strategy is to beat your competitors and gain competitive advantage. So you prepare a game plan to gain competitive advantage. Yes, you prepare a plan to achieve competitive advantage. That is, any organization wants to get ahead of its competitors. And in today's environment where there is cutthroat competition in every sector, to gain more market share, to earn more profits, you need to have a plan wherein you can, beat your competitors and achieve that position. And the plan that helps you to achieve that desired position is nothing but your strategy. Now, organization always prepared strategy after doing the environmental analysis. So while preparing any strategy, first you need to understand the environment in which you are doing your business. You need to understand your internal environment. Internal environment is all those factors which are operating within the boundary of any organization. That includes your customers, that includes your employees, your policies, your management, and every department that operates within your organization. And also you need to analyze your external environment, which includes multiple factors such as pastel, the political environment, economic environment, social, technological environment. When you understand that environment, you get to know about your SWOT. SWOT is nothing but your strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats. And after understanding your strength, weakness, opportunities, threats, you come up with a plan that helps you to adapt to your environment in a timely manner and also gain an advantage over your competitors. We know what Jio did. Jio is a company which is now very familiar to every Indian. Why so? Because Jio came up with a game plan which changed telecommunication sector forever. Before Jio entered, there were companies such as Vodafone, Airtel, and Idea. Vodafone and Idea were the competitors at some time. But when Jio entered, and it entered with a game plan of providing the network facilities at very low cost. The strategy that Jio used was low cost leadership. The strategy that Jio used is known as low cost leadership. In this strategy, Jio decided to sell or make offers to the customer at very, very, very low cost. And what happened? All the customers shifted to Jio's network, and one-time competitors such as Vodafone and Idea didn't have any choice but to combine to fight against the competition given by Jio. And the other players, many players left the market. So this is what strategy do. A right strategy will help you to attain a very good position in the market and help you to realize your goals. But not all strategies are good. So if you do not understand your environment in a proper manner, you can come up with a strategy that will lead to a complete failure. We can talk about Tata Nano. What did Tata Nano did? Tata Nano was a company that promised to provide world's cheapest car, the cheapest car that is affordable by every Indian. It came up with a dream of providing car in every house, in every middle class house that could not afford the otherwise classy cars. So that was the basic intention of introducing a product such as Tata Nano in the market. But things went wrong. Their strategy went wrong. According to Tata Nano leader at that time, Ratan Tata, he said that the marketing strategy of Nano went wrong because they could not understand what car meant for Indian customer. For Indian customer, car is not a necessity, but it is a luxury. So whenever any person being an Indian citizen purchased car, he basically purchased that car as a status symbol. So it is used to show to others that you are successful and you are settled. But when you call any car as a cheapest car, the word cheap itself says that something is not good enough. That's why you're calling it as cheap. So when you call anything as cheapest car, definitely it is not giving you any status symbol. And herein they could not understand this necessity of Indian customers. Their marketing strategy went drastically wrong. And what happened? Tata Nano has to close down its production facilities. The same happened with Ford. Ford came up in India with many dreams, but one after another, the decisions that it took, the plans that it made, the strategy that it made for capturing the Indian market went wrong one after another. And today we know that Ford has decided to leave Indian market. So that's what I'm saying. Strategy is a game plan that you should prepare after doing complete analysis of your environment, after understanding your SWOT. And then if you make a strategy, it will help you to realize your goals of achieving super profits in the market. So that's what strategy means. And interestingly, the origin of the word strategy lies in Greek word strategos. So the origin of the word strategy lies in the Greek word strategos, which means generalship, Now, why generalship? Because, originally the strategy was used in context of war. The word strategy was used in context of war, wherein the major general of the army will prepare a game plan to defeat the competitors. Because whenever there is war, each country who is fighting in a war has an intention of defeating the other opposing army, and therein you have to prepare a plan to achieve this goal. And as we know that today's business environment is no less than a war field, it is no less than a battlefield, and that's why the word strategy has now come to be used in a business environment also. So this you can note. The origin of the word strategy lies in a Greek word strategos, which means generalship, and it was first used in context of war. So this is what strategy means. Now we come to the topic of what is strategic management. Now, strategic management is the combination of two words, strategy, which we just came to know that it is a long-term plan prepared with an intention of adapting your environment and defeating your competitors so that you can reach your decided goals. That is strategy. And what is management? Management we already understood in your lesson 11. So management is a process that comprises of sequence of steps such as planning, organizing, directing, coordinating, controlling, right? So all these steps, the group of these steps is nothing but management. And when we say these two words together, strategy plus management, it becomes strategic management. And what is the definition then? So strategic management is also a process. It is a process which comprises of these four different phases. First of all, we'll understand these phases, and thereafter we'll read the content given just before this topic, right? So what are the four different phases of strategic management which completes the definition of strategic management? So strategic management is a process comprising of four phases. The first important phase is environmental scanning. The second is formulation of a strategy. The third phase is implementation of the formulated strategy. And finally, you evaluate as to whether the strategy that you have implemented have helped you to reach the decided goals. Now, one by one, we'll understand these 4 steps. So the first step is environmental scanning. As I already told you, you cannot make a good strategy without understanding your environment. So if you ignore your environment, you'll come up with a strategy that is not going to make you successful. So you need to understand your environment first. So the board of directors or the top management, whoever is preparing the strategy, has to review the current environment that is in which they are working. So they have to analyze the internal environment, the environment which is within the boundary of an organization, all the factors within the boundary of the organization. And when you analyze your internal environment, you may come to know about your strength. The strength is nothing but any inherent capability, any inherent factor which is giving you an edge over your competitors. So if you have a good brand name, or if you have a huge stock of financial resources, or if you have an employees who are very dedicated and they are having excellent skills in doing their task, all this is nothing but your strengths, right? And you may also come to know about your weakness. So weakness are the inherent limitation or constraint which will come in your way when you're trying to achieve your objectives. And that may include having a weak financial position, or having the workers who are not skillful enough, not dedicated enough, or your management is not having enough expertise of handling the business. So all these can be your weakness. And you also have to analyze your external environment, the environment which is outside the boundary of the organization. And the external environment is usually outside the control of a single entity. This includes all the factors that I've already discussed, the pistil factors, such as political environment, economic, social, technological, legal, and environmental, right? So all these factors. And when you analyze your external environment, you may come to know about opportunities, which are favorable conditions of which any organization can take benefit. Supposingly, customers have increased the demand of your product. So this is an opportunity. If the major competitor have left the market, this is opportunity. And you may also come to know about threats, which are the unfavorable circumstances in your environment, which may create problems for your business, such as, government has changed the laws, and that laws may impact you negatively. Government have increased tax rates, right? Or the economic position of the country is declining, the GDP is declining, purchasing power of customers is declining. That way, all these are the threats. So you should definitely come to know about your SWOT first of all, and also you should have a clear picture of the vision and mission of your organization. So vision and mission of your organization should be very clear in your mind, and your SWOT should be clear, and then only you can proceed in making a very sound strategy. So when your first step is completed, now you can make a very good strategy. Now, while you are framing your strategy, you'll come to know about alternatives, multiple alternatives, from which you can choose the one as your strategy. So that's what they are saying. When you analyze your environment, you may come to know about series of alternatives. These are the different ways which you can implement to reach your target goal. And in this step, we have to analyze all those alternatives. We have to understand the pros and cons of different alternatives, and we have to choose the best course of action which can help us to reach our organizational objectives. And for this, definitely you have to scan all these alternatives and choose the best. And the strategies is formulated at 3 levels. We have 3 types of strategies. We have corporate level strategy, we have business level strategy, and we also have functional level strategies. And we'll understand all the 3 types of strategies in our later chapters. So in the second stage, we have now come up with a strategy. After reviewing all the alternatives, we have selected the best, and this best selection is our strategy. So finally, after selecting a strategy, now it is time for implementing that chosen strategy, because results always appear on the basis of your actions and not on the basis of only making plans. So once you have made the plans, you have to put those plans into action. And for implementing, you have to arrange, make necessary arrangements, such as you have to arrange the necessary resources, you have to arrange the human resources, the financial resources, the other resources you need to arrange that is necessary for implementing your strategy. You have to decide your organization structure. That is, you have to divide the authority and responsibility amongst various employees working in the organization. You have to take very important decisions that will help you to implement your strategy. You may also have to make the budgets, the plans, the policies, the rules, regulations that can help in sound implementation of your strategy. And finally, after making your strategy, you have to evaluate. Evaluation is a final step of this process. And evaluation helps us to identify whether we have implemented the strategy in a proper manner and whether the strategy implementation helped us to reach our decided goal. And if not, we'll find out the gaps, we'll find out the reasons for the failure, and we'll take remedial actions. We'll take the corrective actions. And this all is done to ensure that the implementation is in line with the organizational objectives. So ultimately, our aim is to achieve the objectives defined. So that's what we are evaluating at this stage, whether our performance have been up to the mark or not. And if not, we'll definitely make certain changes. We'll take corrective actions so that we can leverage our performance and ultimately reach the decided goals. And the 4 steps that have been highlighted here are to be performed in a sequential order. So you cannot break the chain. So they have to be performed in a sequential manner. And this is also a continuous process that you can see. This is a continuous process because the strategic management process goes on and on in the organization. You have to analyze your environment every now and then. You have to formulate or you have to readjust your strategy. You have to implement that strategy and evaluate. And this goes in a continuous manner. So strategic management is a continuous process. So I hope you understand what is strategic management. It is a process which comprises of these 4 steps. So that's what they are saying. Strategic management is a process. And in this process, what managers do, they decide their strategies. They make the choice of the strategy out of various alternatives available. And they choose the strategy which will help them to accomplish their goals, that will help them to improve their performance. Strategic management process is not static. It is not one-time activity. It is to be done on the continuous manner. We time to time evaluate our internal, external environment or our macro, micro environment. And on the basis of that, we prepare our strategy, we implement, we assess and reassess our strategy. And this goes in a sequential manner and in a continuous manner. And now we'll study the definitions given by some of the authors herein. So strategic management, as I already told you, is relating to the development of plans. And these plans are made for long term. These plans are made for long term. And these plans are made after having the proper understanding of our vision, the purpose that an organization has in the mind, the activities that an organization is into. So first of all, you need to be very clear about what the organization wants to achieve. The objectives, the vision should be clear. And then you will come up with a long-term plan. That is your strategy. Now, according to Chandler, this definition, you should remember, this may come in your exam. So according to Chandler, the strategic management is a process that comprises of 3 steps. So first of all, you need to determine your long-term goals and objectives. Your objectives should be clear. And then the second step says you need to adopt a particular course of action. That is, you have to select the strategy out of the multiple options available. You have to choose a particular means. You have to choose a particular strategy. And then after choosing that strategy, you have to arrange necessary resources. You have to allocate those resources so that you can carry out the selected course of action to achieve your goals. So I hope you understand. According to Chandler, the strategic management comprises of 3 steps. You have to determine your goals and objectives. Then you have to choose an action plan. That is nothing but your strategy that will help you to reach your goals. And after choosing that strategy, you have to implement that strategy. And that's why you need to arrange and allocate the necessary resources that will help you to implement the chosen action plan to reach your goals. Now, according to Gluck, the strategic management is nothing but a series of decisions that is taken by the top level management. And by taking this decision, they come up with a strategy that will help them to achieve their corporate objective, the corporate level objectives. So strategic management is nothing but a process of taking decisions that will help us to frame a great strategy with the help of which we can implement our corporate objectives. And according to Pane and Newms, the strategic management is again a decision-making process. According to him, it is a decision-making process. And the decisions that we take while making the strategies are not, short-term in nature. They have a long-term impact. The strategic decisions that we take do not have a short-term impact, but they have a long-term impact. We can see what happened in case of Ford. It took a series of wrong decisions. It made a series of wrong strategy, and the impact that it faced was a long term. We can again take a case of Nokia. Wrong strategy made by Nokia came up with wider ramifications. The conclusions or the consequences that Nokia faced were wider in the impact, right? And the strategy is always made with long-term perspective. It is made for future. It is made for long-term. And to implement that strategy, you have to take into account the resources that are needed. So you have to arrange all those critical resources so that you can take the benefit of opportunities in the environment and counter the threats in your environment. So strategy helps you to adjust to your environment, to adapt to your environment. And again, I'll revise this definition given by Paine and Newms. According to them, strategic management is a decision-making activity, and this decision have wider impact. The impact, one wrong strategy will give the wider impact. The impact that will come upon the business is definitely very, very drastic and not, very light impact. So that's why you have to be very clear in making your strategy. And then it is made with the long-term perspective. It is made for longer duration, and it requires you to arrange critical resources so that you can smoothly implement your strategy to gain the benefit of opportunities in the environment and counter the threats in the environment. And again, there are other definitions which I require you to read on your own. So herein, I hope you understand what is strategy and what is strategic management. Now, let us quickly understand our second topic, that is strategic leadership. Now, leader is someone who has an ability to influence the team. If a leader has an ability to influence, he'll influence the team in a manner that the team will voluntarily exert the efforts in a direction that will help the organization to realize its goal and will help the organization to achieve long-term success and also financial ability. So the leader inspires his team, motivates his team, and influences the team to exert their efforts to work beyond their skills that they think they have, to do more than they think they can. And thereby, by exerting their efforts, the employees or the team members will help the leader, will coordinate with the leader to achieve organizational objective. Now, it is said that, the quality of the leader impacts the direction of growth and the potential of success of any organization. We have seen the leaders like Ratan Tata, Mukesh Ambani, and the others which have led their organization to the success path. And we have also seen leaders like Ramalingam Raju and others, because of wrong decisions of whom the organizations such as Satyam Computers have finally wound up. And that's why it is said that the quality, the capacity, the experience, the morale of the leader definitely affects the prospects of the organization of whom he is leading, right? And it is said that to be a successful leader, you should know that the skills and tools of strategy formulation and implementation are different. The qualities which are needed for strategy formulation, to formulate a strategy, to prepare a plan, is completely different from the qualities and skills that are needed to implement that skill, that plan, right? And that's why it is said that a good leader is someone who is perfectly well aware about the skills and tools which are needed for formulation and implementation of strategy. A good leader is someone who works with the team, who influences, motivates, and guides the team in a right manner. The leader is someone who works with his team in the battlefield. He does not give orders to his team by sitting in a AC chambers. He is someone who prepare more leaders. He is always there for his team. He always influences his team in a manner that is strategy supportive. He influences the team to work for the benefit of the organization. It is said that a leader is also a change maker, because we know that, nothing is more permanent than change. Organizational environment is changing in a drastic manner, and it is important for the team members to adapt to this change in a timely manner. And it is leader who influences his team to adapt to this change, the organizational change which is needed for organizational success. A leader is someone who is very clear about the vision, mission, goals of the organization. He can work in the uncertain environment. He does not fear the uncertainty of the environment, but he comes up with a plan that can help or reduce the uncertainty of the environment. The leader main purpose is to improve the productivity of the employees. His main purpose is to ensure that the workers are working in the direction of the organizational goal. The workers' capacity, the efficiency is enhanced day by day. So the first purpose of leader is to improve the productivity of the workers in the direction of realizing strategic goal. And the second aim of the strategic leadership is to see that there is a proper match between the organizational need and the individual need. Because, individuals or the employees or the team members should be told as to what will they get if they are putting efforts to achieve organizational goal. So if the employees know that, by achieving organizational goals, their needs will also be satisfied, definitely then and then only they'll put the efforts in the direction of realizing organizational goal. So he sees to it that the individual goal and the organizational goal are in the same light and they are not opposite to each other. The strategic leaders are someone who instill the confidence. They believe in their employees. They believe in the skill and capacity of their employees. They give chance to their workers. They give chance to the team members to come up with new ideas, not to fear implementing those ideas. So he asks for the opinions and suggestions of all the team members, and then choose the best idea and give rewards and incentive to someone who has come up with that qualitative idea. So that's how he is preparing new leaders. He is allowing his employees to take lead and to come up with something new, which will ultimately help the organization to gain in long term. So that's what a strategic leader does. Now we have 9 functions of the strategic leader. We'll one by one read and understand these 9 important functions that a strategic leader does. Now, the first function of a strategic leader is to act as a navigator. So a leader is someone who navigates or who understands what is stored in future. He is someone who understands the problems, issues, the opportunities and threats in the environment of the organization. He quickly understands, he quickly comprehends what all is going on in the environment and then come up with a plan to resolve all these problems and take maximum benefit of the opportunities in the environment. So he is someone who understands the environment and he's someone who can deal effectively with that environment. And that's why he is called as a navigator, who can navigate the way in storms or in the calm environment. He knows the way where following which the organization can ultimately reach the target. He also acts as a strategist. He prepared the long-term action plans for the organization, following which the organization can ultimately fulfill its vision. So he prepares the long-term plans by taking into consideration the SWOT of the organization. That plan will help the organization to ultimately realize its long-term dreams. He acts as an entrepreneur. He is a risk taker. He is not someone who fears risk. He enjoys taking risk, but in a calculative manner. He sees as to what are the opportunities in the environment, and then he tries to exploit that opportunity in a maximum way in the benefit of the organization by coming up with the new product and services and exploring the new markets wherein the opportunity is there, right? And he also comes up, and if he also knows that there are threats in the environment, he prepares a plan so that the organization can successfully cope up with the threats of the environment. Then he acts as a mobilizer. A mobilizer is someone who arranges the necessary resources which are needed for implementing the plans. So he skillfully aligns with all his stakeholders. He enters into contracts. He negotiates with all the stakeholders. He arranges all the necessary capabilities and resources which are needed for accomplishing organizational objectives. He is a talent advocate. He is someone who knows who is the right person for doing the particular job. He attracts that right quality of the personnel. He develops that personnel by giving him adequate amount of training and the other developmental skills. Then he tries to retain that proper skillful person in the organization for long term by giving the proper incentive to that person. So that is what talent advocate means. He knows the right person for the right job, and he places that person in the right job at the right time. He is a captivator. He is someone who captivates the attention of his team members. He is someone who has an ability to instill confidence and inspiration in the minds of his team members. He builds the passion and commitment in his team members, so that every member can work with utmost enthusiasm and energy towards realizing the goal of the organization. So he's someone who has an ability to instill confidence and passion in the minds of his team members. He is a global thinker. Whenever a strategic leader takes decision, he does not take decision on the basis of a single fact or single information. He's someone who thinks in a global way. He analyzes the environment completely. He takes 360-degree view of the environment, captures the information from all the sources, and takes the decision by having diverse perspective, by having the information from all the sources. This helps to improve organizational performance in long run. He is a change driver. He is a change agent. As I already told you, nothing is more permanent than change. And whenever change comes, it is important for the organization to adapt that change in a timely manner, or else the things would be same as happened for Nokia. So he is someone who knows what changes are there in the environment, and he embraces those change. He does not avoid those changes, but he ensures that the organization adapt the change in a timely manner. He ensures that the change happen in a smooth manner, and ensures that everyone in the organization is adapting that change, adapting the new ideas which are important for organization to grow. He is an enterprise guardian. He acts as a guardian for his shareholders. He ensures that the decisions taken by the organization are in the interest of these stakeholders. He ensures that every decision taken by him actually creates a value addition to the stakeholders and is for the benefit of the stakeholders. So at times he takes those courageous decisions which are in the everyone's interest, which is in the interest of the entire unit. And therefore he is regarded as the guardian of shareholders' will. So these are the 9 roles which a leader has to play working in any organization. So I'll quickly revise this once again. He acts as a navigator. He knows whatever is going on in the environment. He comes to know about all the problems and issues, and then he finds out the way to resolve those problems and take benefit of the opportunities so as to reach at the target. He's a strategist who make the long-term plans which will help the organization to realize its vision. He's an entrepreneur who takes risks. He enters into the new markets, comes up with a new product depending upon the opportunity in the environment. He is a mobilizer who arranges all the necessary resources which is needed for effective implementation of chosen strategy. He is a talent advocate who finds out the right talent, who finds out the right person for the right job, develops him, attract him, and retain him in the organization for the long term. He is a captivator who has the capability to capture everyone's attention. He has that ability to motivate and inspire his team member, give them a goal, passion, and ensure their commitment towards the organizational goals. He's a global thinker who takes the decision by having a 360-degree view of the environment and not just on the basis of single fact or single information. He is a change driver who ensures that the change is adapted by the organization in the right time and in a smooth manner. He is an enterprise guardian who ensures that every decision taken by the organization is in the interest of the stakeholders. Now we'll quickly understand as to what is strategic planning. So according to Ellison and Kay, see, strategic planning is the stage wherein you plan your strategy, you define your strategy, you decide what would be your strategy. And then you can also decide upon, how you would arrange those resources which are needed for implementing that strategy. You will allocate the resources, you'll decide the amount of resources that you need to allocate to implement that strategy. You can also decide the method following which you will implement that strategy. So it is nothing but, a decision stage. You are deciding your strategy. You are deciding how you would arrange your resources, how you would implement your strategy, how much resources you will allocate for implementing that strategy, everything. So you're not implementing anything, but you're only deciding. So that's what planning means, right? Planning is always deciding something for future. Strategic planning is what? Deciding your strategy for the future. That's it, right? And a strategic planning, the concept of strategic planning, came into existence in year 1960s. So that's what you have to remember. Now, the strategic planning is also a process that comprises of series of steps, and it is known as a strategic planning cycle because these steps goes in a cyclic manner, that is in a continuous manner in any organization. And these steps include, so the first step for preparing a strategy or coming up with a strategic plan is that you should be very clear about the organization vision and mission. You should be clear as to what the organization desires to achieve in long term. What are the present prospects of any organization? So your long-term vision and mission should be very clear in your mind. And second thing is that on the basis of your vision and mission, you prepare short-term objectives or short-term goals, which will ultimately lead you to achieve your objectives, your vision and mission, right? So the first step is what? Coming up with your vision and mission statement. Second is you have to develop the objectives. The objectives are framed on the basis of your vision and mission only. And third and fourth thing is nothing but the analysis of your environment. I already told you, you cannot make a strategy, a sound strategy, without having a proper understanding of your environment. And that's why you have to analyze your environment. So you analyze your internal environment, and that will give you knowledge about your strength and weakness. You'll also analyze your external environment. That will give you knowledge about your opportunities and threats. Then you'll summarize the finding of your SWOT analysis. You'll integrate the entire data and try to understand as to what is your current position. So how much strengths you have and what are the threats and weaknesses in the environment. So that's what you have to summarize and get a comprehensive and have to get a complete understanding, right? And on the basis of the proper understanding of your SWOT, you can finally come up with your strategic plan. You can finally decide your strategy that fits your SWOT, right? So that is what is the process of your strategic planning. 6 steps that goes on in the continuous manner. Decide your vision, mission. On the basis of these vision and mission, frame your short-term objectives and goals. You have to analyze your internal, external environment. You have to summarize your SWOT findings. And finally, you can come up with a strategy which you can implement in future. Now, what are the benefits of this strategic planning? So benefits of strategic planning are same as, benefit of any planning. So what does planning, in what way planning helps you? Planning helps to increase the confidence in your team members, and it can enhance your performance. It can improve your performance. See, if you have a proper plan in hand, you can ensure that everybody is very clear as to who has to do what, when the things are to be done. So there is no confusion in the mind of any person. If the planning is proper, everybody knows, what is to be done. So they know how they could contribute in achieving the mission vision of the organization. Everybody has that have that clarity in the mind. So then they can focus on what are to be done by them. And if you see if you see anybody in the team member is not following a plan or is drifting away from the plan, you can ensure that they refocus and re-energize in the direction of achieving the organizational goal. So planning definitely helps to improve your performance. It can ensure that everybody is following the path already decided, and if anybody deviate from that path, you can ensure that they refocus their energy in the right path. Planning helps you to solve problems because plans are only made after analyzing your environment. If you analyze your environment and if you find that there are some weaknesses and there are some threats in the environment, which are nothing but problems, you can then come up with a strategy or a plan that can help you to resolve all those critical problems. So planning is made with an intention of solving all those problems, and that's what planning does. Teamwork. See, whenever any strategic plan is made, the opinions of all the team members is taken. Whenever the top management is preparing a plan, it takes into consideration the opinions and suggestions given by the middle and the bottom level managers. And this ensures that everybody is contributing and every member feels as a part of team. And this actually builds a sense of teamwork. Everybody learns in this process. If you are giving some suggestions and if your suggestions are accepted, you feel valued, and thereby your commitment to the organization also increases. Communication. See, whenever any plan is made, it is important that it is implemented as well. And for that, you have to communicate your plans to everyone in the organization. A good plan, if it is not communicated well, it is of no use. So after making strategic planning, all the stakeholders come to know about what the organization is going to do in the future. They come to know as to what are the future plans of the organization, and thereby everybody knows where their organization is heading to. The plan is communicated to everyone, and so everyone comes to know what is the future of the organization, what is the future path that an organization has chosen for itself. Greater control. So if you are working without having a plan, so you do not know where your organization is going. But if you come up with a proper plan after analyzing your environment, this ensures that you are working in coordination with your environment. This ensures that you are having control on your environment. So analyzing your environment and preparing your plan accordingly ensures that you are in control of your environment and you are not just going with the vagaries of the environment. It ensures that you have control on the things around you. And what are the limitations of strategic planning? Sometimes the organization spends a lot of time and money in preparing plan. They employ experts to do environmental analysis for them. And when we call experts, obviously their fees are very high. They charge huge amount of money. That's why this process becomes costly. And sometimes the small organization which have financial crisis cannot opt for strategic planning because it being a costly affair. And time of management definitely is invested because they have to analyze the environment, which is not a very easy process. And that's why at times it is felt that all the cost and the efforts that you are putting in making the plans is obviously higher than the benefits that you will ultimately get by making a plan. That's what some people think, right? So this is one of the disadvantage, is that in some cases the cost and time that you put in preparing a plan can be more than the benefits that ultimately accrue by making this plan, right? Because not all plans are successful. If your plan is not successful, all the efforts that you have already put in are sunk cost. And then at times organization may make a very poor plan, because a good plan is something which is made after having proper understanding of the environment. But if you have not understood your environment, you can make faulty assumptions regarding your environment. And if your assumption itself are wrong, which is the base of the plan, your plans are also wrong. And that way if a plan is poor, definitely it will not help you to realize your long-term goals. And that way, if you develop poor plans, it is a problemsome situation. And poor assessment of the organization capabilities. Sometimes the organization prepare plans without having a proper knowledge about the capabilities and the capabilities and strengths of the organization, and then a plan could not be implemented. So you should always keep into mind your capabilities, and then only you can prepare a good plan. And at times it happens that the team members themselves are uh, not having good relations among themselves. They always are into conflicts. And what happens then if your group dynamics are poor? A good plan itself could not be implemented properly, and thereby you could not get proper results. Information overload is another problem, because when you analyze your environment for preparing a strategy, sometimes multiple information comes before managers, and to understand all those information and to prepare a good plan becomes a very difficult task, because of lots of information coming from the variety of sources operating in the organization environment. And that's why sometimes it happens that manager could not understand each and every information. Some important information is left out from the manager's attention because of lots of information overload happens, right? And the last problem with strategic planning is that at times plans, though prepared properly, are not implemented properly, and then you could not get results, because even if your plan was good, and if it is not implemented, results will not come. And because of this, the entire planning exercise becomes futile, it becomes worthless, right? And all this brings a feeling of frustration in the team members, because they've already put lots of energy in preparation of plan, and now it is not implemented. And that's why the feeling of powerlessness, the feeling of disillusionment and cynicism occurs in the team members, which is not good for the organization. So this was all about preparing a plan, the benefits of planning, and the limitations of the strategic plan. Now let us understand our next answer, that is Porter's five-force model. Now this model was given by Michael Porter, who was professor of Harvard Business School, and this model was given in the year 1979. Now what is the use of this model? According to Michael Porter, see, whenever you try to enter into any industry, first of all, you should definitely analyze the scenario of that industry. So if the level of competition in that industry is very high, definitely your chances of earning good amount of profits are low. So now this tool, Porter's five-force model, help you to analyze the intensity of competition in that industry. This helps you to judge the level of competition in the industry in which you are trying to enter. And if you find that the level of intention, or the intention of competition, intensity of the competition in the industry is high, this will definitely impact your profitability level. Your profits will be low. And if the competition level is less, your profits can be high. Thus, to analyze this competition level, we use Porter's five-force model. And according to Porter, there are 5 different forces of competition. So usually we think that competition or the competitors are nothing but our rivals. Rivals are someone who are selling the same type of product as our product, and they are selling to the same customers as we do in the same market. So in that sense, Hyundai and Tata, because both are selling cars, they become competitors. Their products are same, their customers are same, and their markets are same. But according to Porter, rivals, though, are one of the sources of competition, there are also other 4 sources of competition. And this combined is known as 5 forces of competition, which impacts our profitability. So what are these 5 forces? So the first force is industry rivalry, which are the rivals, our competitors, selling same product to the same customers in the same market. Then threats of new entrants. Now, new entrants are those companies which will enter into the industry in which you already are operating in future. So every industry we see that, new entrants can enter every now and then. So they are also the potential source of competition. Bargaining power of suppliers. This actually tells us about how strong our buyers are. So if our buyers are more powerful than our company or we ourselves, definitely they'll ensure that the company is working according to their terms and conditions. But if the buyers are not powerful enough, they are forced to buy at the terms and conditions of the organization. So if our buyers are powerful, this is not good news for the organization. So here bargaining power means the power of your buyers to make you agree to their terms and conditions. Now, threats of substitutes. Substitutes are those products which are not exactly same as our product, but they have the potential to satisfy the needs of our customers. So, for example, the telephone, the television. So, television and your mobile. Television and your mobile are actually substitutes. So, the serials and movies that you see in your television, you can also see the same in your mobile phones. Now, these two products are not same, but mobile phones have that capacity to fulfill the needs of customer, the entertainment need. And that's why TV and mobile phone, not being same product, are still competitors because they are substitutes of each other. And next source of competition is suppliers bargaining product power, right? Suppliers are those entities which sell their raw materials to us. So they act as our source of raw materials. They act as the source of all those services and materials that we need to work. So if your suppliers are strong, if your suppliers are more powerful than you as a company, they will then force you to agree to their terms and conditions. They can hike their prices every now and then. They can play with their quality, and if they are more powerful, you have no choice but still to purchase from them. So if your suppliers are strong enough, this is not good news for you, and this will reduce your profits. So now we'll analyze one by one each of these five forces. So as I already told you, the five forces establish the level of competition in the industry, and stronger these five forces, the less our profits would be. If these five forces are more powerful than we as an organization, this will reduce our profitability. Now, one by one, we'll understand these five forces. The first force is threat of new entrant. Now, we'll just read these points. I'll make you understand these points. Now, when is the threat of new entrants higher? When is the possibility of new entrants easily entering into your industry? So these are the situations in which new entrants can easily enter and reduce your level of profits. Now, the first is smaller capital requirements. Smaller capital requirements. So if the level of capital that is to be invested by the new entrant is small, they can definitely easily arrange that small amount of finance and enter into your industry and then act as your competitor. But if the level of capital requirement is very high, as we see in case of airline industry, refineries, and telecommunication sector or pharma sector, when level of competition is very high, when level of capital requirement is very high, the new entrants cannot easily enter into market because it is not possible for every potential person to arrange that big amount of capital, and thereby the new entrant so in that case the huge capital requirement act as barrier for the new entrant, and thereby this source of competition becomes weak, right? So a small capital requirement is a blessing for the new entrant. They can easily enter into the industry, and when the capital requirement is high, it act as barrier to entrant. See, we can very well note what a new entrant can do if they enter into the industry. I told you about what Geo did in telecommunication sector. Geo came as a very powerful entrant in the market, and it completely changed the picture of telecommunication sector. It suddenly became market leader at one point in capturing the large market share. So the new entrant can definitely reduce the profitability of existing player if they are powerful enough, as Geo did, right? So that's what they are saying. So if the capital requirement is small, the new entrant can easily enter. The second is, if the existing companies are not powerful enough, they could not do anything to stop the new entrant from entering into the industry. And in that case, new entrant can easily enter and act as a source of competition, reducing your profits. When the existing firm do not have any patent or trademark, so if the products of the existing companies are not protected by the patents and trademarks and other intellectual rights, any new entrant can come and copy and start manufacturing that product and selling in the market. And that way it becomes very easy for new entrant to enter, and then they can act as your source of competition. But if the products of the existing companies are protected by patent and the other intellectual properties, it is very difficult for the new entrant to copy same, because if you copy the patented product, it is the case of infringement, and then you have to face the legal consequences. But if the product is freely available, new entrant can easily come in the market and then act as the source of competition. When the industry in which you are operating has little or no government regulation, so if the new entrants do not have to ask for government permission or take any license from the government, they can easily enter into the industry and thereby reduce your profits. If customer switching cost is low, that means if the customer can easily shift from one product to the another, as we do in the case of FMCG. So if you buy one toothpaste such as Colgate in 1 month, and then you can easily switch to Close Up or Pepsodent in the another month. So in the FMCG product, our switching costs are very low. That means we can easily switch from one product to the another. And if this is the case, it is very easy for new entrant to come and capture attention of your competitors, and thereby some of the competitors may switch from your product to the new entrant product and reduce your profitability. But if the customer switching cost is high, as is seen in case of durable products such as vehicles, or even the non-intangible products such as software, right? So we see the case of Windows operating system. Windows operating system is something which is used by most of the organizations, and even we use in our computers, right? And some of us are so comfortable with Windows operating system that even if the new operating system is launched, we are not willing to switch to that, because there is a sense of fear that we may not be able to adjust with the new software and something like that. And thereby the switching cost in this case of customer is high, and this works in favor of Windows. The same is case with two-wheelers and other vehicles, right? We do not want to switch to new product very easily because the product is very costly, and we have that fear that it is possible that if we switch to the new product, which is again very costly, we might not be satisfied in that case, right? So that is that's usually happened in case of costly product, that customer switching cost is high. Whereas in case of low cost product and repeatedly purchased product, customer switching cost is low, and that's why new entrant can easily enter into market. Next is customer loyalty. When your customers are not loyal to your product, then they can easily switch to the new entrant's product, and thereby they can easily capture your market share and reduce your profitability. But if your customers are very loyal to your product, and they'll stick to your product no matter what, new entrant cannot harm you. Then if your product are not being able to differentiate it, so if you are not able to create any kind of differentiation in shape, size, color, or taste of your product, and that means your product is very or the industry in which you are operating consists of non-differentiated product, which happens in case of perfect competition. So in perfect competition, the product of all the suppliers or all the companies are same, and that's why the level of competition is high. But if you can easily differentiate your product, if that happens in case of cell phones, right, or any other electronic product, you can easily differentiate your product in some way, and thereby you can attract a certain group of customer to be loyal to your product. And in that case, new entrant may not harm you. But if the product are same, new entrant can easily capture a portion of your market share. When economies of scale can be effortlessly acquired. What is economies of scale? Economies of a scale is a capability to produce in bulk. So when you produce in bulk, your per unit cost reduce, your cost of manufacturing per unit reduce. And if that happens, you can reduce your selling price and thereby attract the price sensitive buyers. See, if it is easy to achieve economies of scale, any new entrant can come in market and produce in bulk and thereby reduce the selling price. And then they can attract large number of your customers. But if economies of scale is not easy to establish, if economies of scale is very difficult to get, so if you are into the industry wherein producing is bulk is a difficult task, then new entrants could not harm you, because you are already into the industry for long term. You are able to produce in bulk, you have the advantage of economies of scale, your per unit cost is low, your selling price is low, and the new entrant cannot achieve the economies of scale very easily. Thereby their selling price will tend to be high, and they cannot harm you because you are selling at much less cost and better quality than your new entrants. So all these are the cases in which new entrant can easily enter. When capital requirement is small, they can easily arrange the small finance and enter. When your existing companies are not powerful enough to stop them from entering into the markets, when your product are not protected, your product are general, then new entrant can easily come and copy and start selling the same product. When the industry is not protected by government regulations, that means any new entrant can come without taking any government permission or license. When your customer have very low switching cost, that means they do not mind switching from your product to the new entrant product, then it is very easy for new entrant to come and establish their market share. When your customers are not loyal to your product, that means they can easily switch from your product to another company's product. In that case, the threat of new entrants is high. When your product are not differentiated, that means you are selling identical product, the industry is selling identical product, it's very easy for the new entrant to copy that identical product, and that way they can snatch away your customers. When economies of scale can be effortlessly acquired, anybody can come, produce in bulk and reduce the per unit cost, and that way it is easy for the new entrant to achieve economies of scale, and thereby they can snatch away your customers and reduce your profitability. Now, the next point is bargaining power of suppliers. Now, suppliers, as I already told you, they are those entities which sell us the raw materials and the other necessary supplies required for our manufacturing, right? And if our suppliers are powerful enough, definitely they'll increase their price every now and then, which will impact our profit margins. If our raw material prices are high, our profits level will be low, because raw material cost is actually cost for our product. And if they increase the prices, our cost increases, but we cannot suddenly increase our selling price. So we have to squeeze our profits to adjust to these rising prices. And they can also play with the qualities. Anytime they can reduce the quality of the product, and if their power is high, we are left with no choice but to purchase that bad quality product at high price. So if your suppliers are powerful enough, that will definitely reduce your profit margin. Now we'll understand the cases in which our suppliers can be powerful than our organization. It happens when your suppliers are in small numbers, but buyers are plenty. So if your suppliers are less in numbers and you as a buyer, so if there are only 2 suppliers in the market and there are hundreds of buyers, what will happen? Buyers will compete for these supplies, and suppliers being less in numbers have choice to decide to whom they want to sell, and they'll definitely sell to those buyers who will agree to their terms and conditions, who is ready to pay the high prices for those products. And that way you have to reduce your profit margins, because then you'll have to pay high price, because there are only few suppliers in the market. But if there are a large number of suppliers, definitely you as a buyer have choice to buy from any supplier, and that way their power then reduces. And when there are suppliers are large in number, they pose a threat of to forward integration. Now we'll first understand what is forward and backward integration, and then I'll make you understand this point. Now, forward integration, we can understand this with an example. So supposingly you are in a business of garments manufacturing, and now definitely you buy your cloth that you require for garment manufacturing from some suppliers outside, and then you sell this finished garments to some retailers who will then sell it to your customers, right? So now, if this is you and these are your suppliers who are providing you cloth that you require for garment manufacturing, and these are retailers who are distributors, again an external party, will sell your product to the customer. Now, if you decide not to purchase product from your suppliers, but to manufacture it by yourself, that means if you decide not to buy cloth from the outside suppliers, but you decide to manufacture your cloth by yourself, you are going back in a chain. So this is a chain of activity. This is a chain of activity, and you are here. And if you decide to manufacture your raw material by yourself, that means you are doing backward integration. You are going back in the chain, and this is known as backward integration. And again, if you decide to sell your raw materials, if you decide to sell your finished product to the customers by yourself by establishing your retail outlets, that way you are going forward in a chain, and then it is known as forward integration. So if you take the business of your distributors, you are going one step ahead in a chain, and that is forward integration. And if you take the business of your suppliers, you get one step back in the chain, and that is known as backward integration. I hope you understood the content of backward and forward integration. These are two types of strategies which come under the topic of vertical integration. So vertical integration comprises of two strategies, backward and forward integration. We'll discuss this in detail in our later chapters. Now, what they are saying. So if the suppliers pose a threat of forward integration, so if your suppliers are capable, so if this is your supplier who is selling you cloth, and if he actually wants you to buy the cloth from this suppliers at their terms and conditions, and if you don't agree to buy, they warn you that they'll themselves start manufacturing garments, right? What your suppliers are telling you that they have the capability of manufacturing garment by themselves. Instead of selling it to you, they give you this threat that if you do not agree to their terms and conditions, if you're not buying the cloth from them at their dictated prices, then they won't sell it to you, and they'll start manufacturing garment by themselves. Then this will definitely increase a competition for you, because if your suppliers also enter into garment business, they'll become your competitors in future. So if your supplier have this potential of integrating forward, this is showing that they are more powerful to you. And if you want to avoid them entering into garment business, you have to agree to their terms and conditions, and that way they are being more powerful to you. They're more powerful than you. If there are not many substitutes of raw materials, so if the raw material that your suppliers are providing do not have substitutes, so if you had substitute, you could have switched to those substitutes instead of buying from your suppliers. But as there are no substitutes, you are left with no choice but to agree to the terms and condition of your suppliers and buy that material from the supplier only. So if there are no substitutes, your supplier becomes powerful. If the supplier is providing something unique which is not available in the market from anywhere else, so if you're buying from one supplier and if their supplies are completely unique, and if you want that raw material, you know that you have no choice but to buy from this particular supplier only, and that way they can make you agree to their terms and conditions, and they become more powerful. So if their material is not generic but unique, you have to agree to their terms and condition to get those materials, right? And if your switching cost is high, so if you buy from a particular supplier and it's your switching cost is high, that means you find it very difficult to switch from this supplier to someone else. You have certain fears of switching from one supplier to the another. So your high switching cost act in favor of your supplier. They know that you won't switch to another supplier, and that way they can make you agree to their terms and conditions. So that's what they are saying. If your switching cost is high, your suppliers are benefiting. Next, we'll try to understand what is bargaining power of buyers. So bargaining power of buyers is nothing but power of buyers to make you agree to their terms and conditions, as we studied in case of bargaining power of suppliers. Now, what are those cases in which our bargaining power of bargaining power of buyers would be more? What are the cases in which our buyers would be more powerful than us? So this happens when our buyers buy in high volumes. So if you are selling, so if this is your company and if you are selling to only, and if you are selling to a particular customer, so suppose customer A, and if he is buying 80% of your production, he is buying 80% of your production and rest 20 is bought by some other customers. So this particular customer is definitely will be is definitely strong than you, because if he stops buying this 80%, your business would be affected drastically. So if they are buying in high volumes, they'll definitely threaten you to agree to their terms and condition, to agree to their dictated prices, or else they'll stop buying from you. And this threat will will make them more strong than you. So that's what they are saying. If the buyer is buying in high volume, you are dependent on them. They are not dependent on you, but you are dependent on them. And then if there are only few buyers in the market, so if there are many suppliers, but if there are only few buyers, the suppliers and you being one among them will compete for these buyers. And then buyers will make you agree to their terms and conditions, because buyers have choices, but you as a supplier do not have much choice. So if there are only few buyers in the market, they are very strong compared to these suppliers. When the switching costs to the competitors are low, when your buyers can easily switch from your product to your competitor's product. So if there is a particular buyer who is buying from you, so if this is your company and this is a buyer who is buying from you, and if their switching cost is low, that means if you do not agree to their terms and conditions, they can easily switch to any other company. So your company is X and your competitor's company is Y. And if the customers have low switching costs, they can easily switch from X company to company Y. And that way, if their switching cost is low, and if you want to retain your customers, if you want to retain your buyer, you have to agree to their terms and condition, and that way they become more strong. If they threaten to integrate backward, if your buyers threaten to integrate backward, so if your retail manufacturers, so if your retailers who are your distributors are presently buying your garments, so your retailers, you are a garment manufacturer, and your retailers are your buyers. And your retailers being your buyers um, can be stronger if they have this capability to integrate backward. That means if you do not agree to their terms and condition, they have the capability to manufacture garment by themselves and then sell it to the market. In that case, they are threat to you, because if you don't agree to their terms and condition, they'll start entering into your business and act as your competitors. So if your buyers have this capability to integrate backward, you will not like them to integrate backward. Instead, agree to their terms and conditions and sell to them. In that way, buyer can become more powerful if they have this capability to integrate backward. And then there are many close substitutes. So if the buyers have many substitutes in the market, if you do not agree to their terms and conditions, they'll switch to the other substitutes available in the market. And that way, they are more powerful because they have many choices. And that way, they are more powerful. When buyers are price sensitive buyers, are very much affected by the level of prices at which you are offering your product. So if you slightly increase your price, the buyers will stop buying your product. Price sensitive buyers are affected by the prices. So if you increase your price, they'll stop buying your product. And that way, they can force you not to increase your prices. They become more powerful than you. They'll force you not to increase your prices, or else they'll leave you, because they are price sensitive and they cannot tolerate any increase in price. So that way, in all these situations, your buyer become more powerful, and then this definitely reduces your chances of earning high profits. If your buyer buys in high volume, if they purchase in bulk, if there are only few buyers, if they have very low switching costs, they can easily switch to your competitor's product. They threat you to integrate backward. There are many substitutes available in the market, and your buyers are price sensitive. Now we'll look to the fourth source of competition according to Porter, that is substitute. I already told you what are substitutes. Substitutes are those products which are not same as your product, but have potential to satisfy the needs of customer. And those substitutes which are available at less prices and are of better quality than your product will definitely damage your market share. As I gave you the example of TV and mobile phone. Mobile phone has capability of fulfilling the entertainment need as is done by television, and they are available at less price, and they are available in good quality. And that way, now many people, including us, do not watch television, but we have shifted to cell phones to fulfill our entertainment need. So substitutes are again the source of competition. So that way they are saying. And again, if buyer switching cost is low, if buyer can easily switch from the main product to the substitutes, in that case also substitutes become powerful. If your buyers have no problem watching those same serials and movies on mobile phone, that way, in that case, your substitutes become more powerful. Buyer can easily switch. Buyer switching cost is low, so then substitutes become more powerful. So that was all about substitutes. Rivalry, that is the existing rivals, the existing competitors in the market. The competitors I already told you are those who are selling same product as we are selling, and in the same market to the same customer. So when will the competitive rivalry become intense? When will the level of competition be very high? It will happen when there are several competitors in the market. So if the number of competitors in the industry is high, definitely the level of competition would be intense, right? So if there are more number of competitors, the level of competition would be high. When there are high exit barriers. Exit barriers means the barriers which come in the way when the company decides to leave the market. So if a particular company wants to leave the market but could not leave because there are certain barriers. For example, supposingly there is one company in the market who have a specialized machinery, and the company wants to leave the market. But if it is leaving the market, it will have to sell this machinery. And what is the case of a specialized machinery? So if the company have built this specialized machinery at by spending crores of rupees, and now if they want to leave the market, they have to sell this machine. But definitely the specialized machine may not be of any use to the other companies in the market or the other buyers, because this is customized. Specialized is what customized. Your customized machinery may be very useful to you, but it may not be of same use to the other buyers in the market. They will buy this specialized machinery which you build by spending crores of rupees at the scrap price, and that way you lose if you are leaving the industry. So if you are deciding to leave the industry, you'll have to sell this machine, and definitely you are getting a very low price by selling this machinery. So you may decide not to leave the industry, and instead you may decide to still remain in the industry and compete. So if there are exit barriers such as this, company will not leave the industry, your competitors will not leave the industry. Instead, they'll remain in the same industry and compete. But if the exit barriers are low, the competitors will definitely easily leave the market and reduce the level of competition. If the industry is having low growth rate, so industries in the maturity stage where there is very low growth rate, what will happen? In case of low growth rate, the companies will try to increase their profits by attracting or snatching the competitors of the competitors, right? So if the industry is mature, so then the market share is fixed. No more new customers will enter into the market. And so in this low growth industry, if a company wants to grow, it will have to snatch the competitors of B company. And that way, the intensity of competition increases. Cutthroat competition is visible when the company is at the maturity stage. When the growth slows down, the companies try to snatch away each other competitors, right? So that's why it is said that when the growth rate becomes low, the intensity of competition increases. When the products are not differentiated, already discussed. When the products are not differentiated, when the products are identical, perfect competition like situation happens. But if the product are differentiated, you can attract a group of customers by giving them something unique in your product which is not available in your competitor's product, and that way you can earn good amount of profits. But this is only possible when your product is capable of being differentiated. As in case of soaps, all FMCG product, electronic product, they can be differentiated. But oil, petroleum product, pharma product, they cannot be easily differentiated. And that way, the level of competition is high. Product can be easily substituted. So if your customers, again, switching cost is low, if they do not mind by switching from your product to your competitor's product, that case level of competition would be very high. Your customers are not loyal to you. They can easily switch from your product to the competitor's product. Your competitors will definitely try to attract them by giving them offers, by making attractive advertisement, and that way the level of competition increases. You might have to reduce your prices, and give lots of offers at the cost of your profits to your customers, to persuade them to remain with you. That's what they are saying. So we talked about how in the situations when level of competition would be high, when there are several competitors, when there is high exit barriers, when the industry growth rate is low, when your product are not capable of being differentiated, when your product can be easily substituted, when the customer loyalty is very, very low. Now we understand how to implement this model. How should you implement this model? So there are 3 steps following which you can easily implement or use Porter's model. So the first step is, gather the information from all the 5 forces. First of all, you have to gather the information from all the 5 forces. That means you'll understand each and every step in detail, right? Each and every 5 force in detail. For example, when you study, when you'll try to gather the information about the new entrant, you'll gather the information regarding, amount of capital required, what would be the steps that the existing company will take to retaliate when the new competitors enter. Is there any possibility of strong retaliation by the existing companies when the new competitors enter? Are there any legal barriers such as, product protected by patent, copyright? What is the level of brand reputation needed for the new entrant to capture the market share of existing competitors, if the product is capable of being differentiated? So that way, in first step, you'll understand each and every 5 forces in detail. Similarly, you'll get the information about your suppliers. What are the number of suppliers? What is the size of supplier? Is the material in scarcity? Can the supplier integrate forward? That way. We have already studied all those points. So I'm just quickly going through these points. You'll also gather information regarding buyers. What are the number of buyers, the size of buyers? What is the buyer switching cost position? Are buyers price sensitive? Similarly, you'll gather information about substitutes. What are the number of substitutes? What is the price and performance of your substitutes? You'll gather information about your rivals. What are the number of competition in the rivals? Can the rivals easily leave industry, or there are exit barriers? Are the product of competitors differentiated or they are identical? What is the level of loyalty of your competitors? Is there any threat of horizontal integration? Now, horizontal integration means your competitors capturing your business, such as, Flipkart captured Myntra. So Myntra and Flipkart both were in this online marketing space, and Flipkart captured Myntra, which was one-time competitor, and now Walmart captured Flipkart, right? So that way, if there is possibility of capturing your, if there is possibility of your competitor capturing you, so all this you have to understand. So this is your first step, that is to gather information for each of the 5 forces in detail. Now, in the second step, after you have gathered the information, you have to analyze the impact of each of the 5 forces on your business by making a diagram. So you'll make a 5 force diagram like this. You'll make a 5 force diagram like this, and you'll understand whether the impact is positive or whether the impact is negative, right? So if, for example, they are saying, so if you come to know that the number of companies in the market is high, or if you come to know that the industry in which you are entering is having low growth rate, So this, what is the impact of this thing on your business? Definitely the rivalry will increase, right? So what we'll do in this stage, we'll try to understand the information that we have gathered in the first stage. We'll try to understand the impact of each of the 5 forces on our business, whether the impact is positive or the impact is negative. So if the impact is positive, it is opportunity, and if the impact is negative, it is threat, right? And in the third step, we'll formulate the strategy on the basis of the conclusion that we draw in our second stage. So if you come to know that, the industry is having low growth rate, and that means the level of competition is high, that means this is threat. So you'll have to formulate a strategy to overcome this threat. So in the third stage, we'll formulate a strategy on the basis of our analysis. Now, for example, in the second, you gather the information that, it is very hard to achieve economies of scale. So in the first step, you gathered the information that it is very hard to achieve economies of scale in the market. This means that this is a positive news for you. This is positive for you because even if the new entrant enter into the market, they'll not be able to achieve economies of scale and reduce their prices. And then what strategy you should make to take the benefit of this opportunity? You can opt for cost leadership. A cost leadership means that you can reduce your prices because you are already into the industry. You have the benefit of economies of scale. Your competitors, the new entrants will not have this benefit. So you should take advantage of your low profits and do something as Geo did, reduce your prices drastically and attract large number of customers to your business. So that's what you can do. And similarly, if on the basis of analysis, you come to know that the market is into slow growth rate. So what strategy you can make in this situation? You can opt for product development. Product development means that you should come up with something new product because the market in which you are operating at present is not going to grow further. The market growth rate has slowed down. And in that situation, you should leave that product and you should come up with something new product which is in demand in the market, and that way you can increase your profits. So this is the strategy which we can make when the market is saturated. So these are the 3 steps of applying Porter's 5 force model. So the first step is to gather the information about each of the 5 forces. The second step says that you have to analyze the information gathered and understand the impact of this information on your business. And on the basis of this impact, you should frame a sound strategy, taking benefit of the opportunity and trying to minimize the impact of threats on your business. And then next, they have given the case law of Pizza Hut, and this you have to read on your own. Now we'll understand the last answer of this chapter, which is yet an important answer, which is the strategic management functions and importance of professionals like company secretaries. So the entire section talks about what company secretary can do in context of strategic management. So, previously there was Companies Act 1956, and now we have Companies Act 2013. And because of Companies Act 2013, the designation of company secretary is now as a key managerial personnel, KMP, and is not just a glorified clerk. And this is because the company secretary has to see that the organization in which he is working is following the best governance practices. The company is managed in a way that is acceptable in the global business world. The company is working in a way that is in the interest of all the stakeholders connected with the entity. It may be your shareholders, your employees, your suppliers, your government. The company secretary is to see that the organization is not doing any harm to the connected stakeholder. He acts as a strategist and he's not just a knowledge worker. The company secretary should be well aware about all the changes that are going on in the environment of the organization. He has to see as to what could be the future possibilities of the environmental situation. And after analyzing all these environment of the organization, he has to intimate the changes to the top leaders of the organization so that they can adjust the organizational strategy accordingly. The role of the company secretary is like a balancing wheel. because on one hand, he has to take into consideration the needs of the stakeholder. He has to see that the needs and demands of all the stakeholders are met. And for that, he has to act as a mediator between the insiders, that is board of directors, and the external parties such as shareholders. He has to act as a spokesperson of the company. He has to narrate the corporate issues to the external parties that the company is facing. He has to arrange the meetings, and he has to maintain the proper records which can be used for the future reference. And this is the one part of the job of company secretary. While on the other part, he has to play the yet bigger role. He has to ensure that the company is following the good corporate governance practices while taking any decisions. And at times, the company secretary has to solve this dilemma. He has to make a choice between what is good for his company and what is ethically correct. At times, something which is correct on a moral grounds may not be good so far as companies profits are concerned, but he has to make a choice as to on what path he should go, whether he should choose something that is ethically correct, or whether he should leave all those morale for a while and choose benefit of his company. But always we should go with what is ethically correct, because this will definitely give us benefits in long term. And this paragraph also talks about the same thing. He has to time to time interact with the top management and appraise them about what all is going on in the environment, what all changes have taken place in capital market, the laws such as corporate laws and the strategic laws. And he has also to communicate with the external important agencies such as regulatory agencies such as SEBI, ROI, SEBI, then your registrar, and your Reserve Bank, and all such authorities. You have to keep in contact with all those authorities on behalf of your organization. You have to ensure that the important aspects of the business are handled in a proper manner. You have to see that the company is fulfilling its corporate social responsibility, that the company is contributing for the benefit of the society in which the company is working. And that's what is said that company secretary today plays many roles, and that is why the CS has occupied a paramount significance so far as strategic management is concerned. Now we'll see what are the key roles played by company secretary in today's era, so far as SM is concerned. Now, the first role that the CS has to play is that of advisory. That means he has to advise the board of directors so that they have a good sense while making important decisions. CS has to give his advice in an impartial and unbiased manner. His advice should be in the best interest of company and not in the interest of any particular person, or in the interest of himself satisfying some of his greeds. That should not be the way of giving advice. And he can also help a chairman in framing, in doing the evaluation of board of directors, in deciding the induction plans, the training plans of the managers or the future directors. So he can help to enhance the performance of the directors, who are actually handling the day-to-day affairs of the business, by helping chairmen to evaluate their potential, by giving them enough training, and by preparing the proper induction plans. In that way, CS can add value to the work of chairman by giving him advice and help in time to time, and ensuring that chairman is working according to the governance practices, acceptable governance practices. The second task that he has to do is to act as a spokesperson of the organization and to communicate with different stakeholders of the company. So he is considered as a link between the board of directors and the other external parties. He has to communicate with the external parties on behalf of board of directors, and usually he is considered as a first point of contact, wherein the stakeholders can ask various queries that comes into their mind. And so, and for that, before talking to the external stakeholders, CS should always talk to the chairman and board of directors so that good relations with the stakeholders can be maintained on by proper consensus between the CS and the board members, right? And then he has to ensure that there is flawless disclosure and reporting. So the quality of disclosure today is very important. The company should be very transparent in its disclosure practices. This increases the sense of loyalty, or the sense of an understanding between the shareholders and the other parties and the company itself. So if the company is transparent, definitely the loyalty or the trust of the stakeholders towards company increases, and that's why CS has to ensure that the company is disclosing everything that is important for the stakeholders to know. So while drafting his governance report or the company's annual report, he has to ensure that all the reports are drawn in a proper manner according to the legal requirements and are made available to the stakeholders accordingly. He has to ensure that there is proper meetings of the board of directors and the committees from time to time, because meetings play an important role. It is a area wherein the board of directors and committee members can discuss important things and take important decisions affecting the success or failure of the organization. And so CS plays an important role to ensure that these kind of meetings are properly conducted and properly reached to the conclusions. So he is someone who handles the scheduling of the meeting. He talks to the members and ensure that a proper schedule is fixed for the meeting. He prepares a proper agenda of the meeting. He presents the proper information which can be very helpful to the members participating in the meeting for the discussion purpose. He also ensures that all the board of directors who have participated in the meeting are taking effective participation. They are giving their views and opinions, and there is a healthy debate going on, which will enhance the capability of BOD and ensure that they are taking good decisions. And then compliances. So he is considered as a CS is considered as a compliance officer, and therefore he has to ensure that the company is complying with all the rules and regulations which are applicable. And for that he should be conversant with all the laws and the amendments which are taking on in those laws from time to time. He has to keep himself updated. Now, as we know that there are a variety of laws which are applicable to any organization, such as Companies Act, SEBI Act, the SCARA, that is Securities Contract Regulation Act, FEMA, Foreign Exchange Management Act, Depositories Act, Environment Pollution, Labor laws. So there are multiple laws which are applicable to any organization, and CS should be well aware about the compliance requirement and ensure that the company is timely complying with all these norms and acting as a good corporate citizen. Again, CS act as a representative on behalf of the organization whenever there is any case laws or there is any calling from the regulatory authorities. So he represents the organization before various tribunals and courts in situation of any legal issue of the organization. So he act as a legal practitioner before NCLT, that is National Company Law Tribunal, National Company Law Appellate Tribunal, CCI, that is Competition Commission of India, Registrar, and Tax Tribunal. So many authorities are there, and he represents the company before all these authorities. So now, coming to the conclusion part, they are talking about, there have been various corporate governance committee who have been appointed by SEBI from time to time. So we have Kumar Mangalam Birla Committee, Narayan Murthy Committee, Cadbury Committee, which is a committee of in UK. Now, all these committees have narrated certain points which should be followed by any organization to ensure that they are governing their organization in a proper manner. And the set of all these rules are known as corporate governance rules or corporate governance practices. And it is necessary to see that all these practices are followed properly. And CS is a person who ensures, who independently checks that the company is giving fair and equitable treatment to all the stakeholders and is fulfilling the corporate governance norms. The company is ensuring fair voting processes. The company is not indulging into any insider trading practices or or any kind of negative dealings. The company is ensuring that there is an open and efficient marketing. The company is disclosing every fact to the stakeholders in a timely manner. And all this comes under corporate governance practices. And CS is a person who sees to it that everything which is necessary for The good corporate governance, which comes under good corporate governance practices, is actually followed by the organization. And CS is and thus considered as an important human resource of the organization, which put all his efforts in ensuring, again and again, they are saying the same thing, ensuring that the company is fulfilling its corporate governance responsibility, and then the company is able to realize its potential. And for all this, CS should have certain core competencies. So, what are the few core competencies that any CS should have? What are the qualities that a CS should have? So, first of all, the CS should possess a thorough knowledge of the company's business. So, if you are CS of any company, you should know what are the strengths and weakness of that company. What are the different elements of that business that should be very clear to you. What are the laws applicable to that business? So that all should be very clear to you. And then you should have the sound knowledge of all the laws which are applicable to your organization. You should possess certain soft skills such as communication skill and professional skills. You should have legal skills. You should have management and IT skills too, because these days you cannot work without having sound understanding about IT tools, right? You should also be very careful about, you should also come to know about the intuition and the feelings of the board of directors and CEO, because CS closely work with BOD and CEO, and so you should as a CS you should be able to understand the thoughts and the problems that the board of directors and CEO are facing, so that should be very clear to you. As a CS, you should be very aware about what all is going on in the environment of the organization. What are the new developments? You should keep yourself update, and you should also update the board of directors and managers about all the new developments. The As a CS, you should be able to work as a team. You should be able to bring the consensus in the multidisciplinary settings. You should be able to ensure that everybody reach at a consensus while taking decision. And again, you should be very flexible, creative, and detailed in your work. You should be able to work in any kind of setting. That means you should be flexible, you should be innovative, you should be creative enough to solve the new problems that present day organization have to face. You should be able to work under pressure. You should remain calm under pressure, and you should know what is your long term perspective, and you should never lose the sight of that perspective, and ensure that the team members are also working keeping that perspective in mind. So all these are core competencies that a CS should have. So just read this answer once. And these days, your institute is asking these kind of questions which are focused on CS. So this answer is important. So now you'll get MCQs from this point. So you should definitely read this answer once. So that here we complete chapter number 12. I hope you understood each and every concept. And if not, you can ask in comment section. Thank you.